Mr. Mutz, how are you?
Great, Tyler.
I'm
Thanks.
so excited to have you back today. It's episode 26 of Lakeland Business Owners Podcast, Growing Pains. This is our second go around,
It is.
and quite a few things have changed since the last time we spoke.
Yes. And I'm proud of you and Lakeland business owners and your pursuit and your connectedness. Thanks for keeping that up.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. It's been a great journey so far, and I know we're still just getting started, but we're very grateful for the guests that we have, like yourself, people that are just, obviously leaders in our community, but really value the importance of the business owners here and how that grows and brings people together. And, I think where I want to start this episode on is your background and kind of segue into what's happening now in the community. But you were a former business owner, right?
Yes, sir.
You now being in the government, seat, being the mayor of Lakeland, I think that brings a very unique perspective. So why don't you just share like your overall vision for businesses here, like your core purpose and just how you want them to succeed?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. And I find sometimes people expect businesses to apologize for their profits, to apologize for being successful, to apologize for the taxes that they are underpaying when it comes to like relieving impact fees when we're trying to grow or develop something. And it's so important that we recognize that businesses are the engine behind everything else that we do. They provide us with jobs. They provide us with tax base. They provide us with products that people utilize in their on a daily basis or services. And so, as a 45-year businessman in different industries, it's imperatively important to me that we, as a city and as a commission, are doing everything we can to responsibly grow business. It's how you do it, where you put it, and how wisely that you help to support it.
Absolutely. And I think the one beautiful thing about Lakeland is I feel like that's a passion for many here. And there's so many organizations that want the business community to succeed and want people to have those resources. So
I
let's
agree.
let's talk a little bit about like the organizations here, because I know that's one big real purpose and mission for you is to bring these together and really help the entire ecosystem thrive. So
Sure, and I think that's a good way to go because we have a wonderful network in the city that a lot of cities don't have, and everyone thinks their city's unique. That's a normal deal, or your business is unique, and
mhm,
when in fact we have many many commonalities. But as you look around other cities, what makes Lakeland unique is its early philanthropy focus on how do you help people. And that was set by giants, from Florida Tile and Publix and many others that came alongside. Lots of financial institutions that helped along the way and made it possible for those opportunities to grow and exist. And then not for profits that found segments of needs in the community and worked to fill them. So we have faith-based organizations that have historically done that well, but then we also have a lot of very targeted not-for-profits. And then how do you kind of have those all work together and connect? And so I think on the whole, we've done a great job in our city of connecting fragmented, smaller organizations. And when we look at what we have as opportunities to do, we have opportunities to then use those things in an even tighter mesh. And the well and even the works that the chamber is talking about are other ways to be able to do that. You look at how we can align people that have skills and passions with the opportunity to connect with someone who can help them grow.
yep. And I think that's really important because there's so many unique businesses here and people that are leaders and they need those resources. And everyone has stories and relatable journeys. And I think that's one other thing that is I enjoy about you is you enjoy the stories and the people actually, their upbringing, how they're serving. So how do you think leaders just overall succeed? Like, what do you find the most commonality in traits of a leader and the ones that are actually doing great things?
A great leader is less focused on themselves and more focused on results, less focused on what I want to be known for and more focused on what is our mission. Uh, Less focused on my reputation and more focused on the organization's reputation. So I know lots of leaders who have been most concerned about how they look to someone else, and that keeps them from being an effective leader. It's an autopilot way not to be, because you turn around and the only people following you are the ones you've hired, not the people
You're
that
being an actor, you're
right,
not
right. You're
being
in a role and
right.
you're posturing it. Posturing is never an effective way to lead. Leadership that lasts is born out of authenticity. It's born out of transparency. It's born out of saying, I made a mistake. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Please forgive me,
Mhm.
because that was the wrong thing to have said, the wrong thing to have done. Um, Gosh, we saw that with Will Smith. If
Yeah.
if you want to take that one piece and say, what could he have captured in that moment
Mhm.
after he sat back down and before he got his award, or even while he was getting it, he could have recognized that was a horrible mistake.
Mhm.
I shouldn't have done it, and apologized. And in that moment, recaptured
Mhm.
the lost respect that occurred for what was done.
Yeah.
And I think we forget that the longer we go before we say we're sorry when we do something that is inherently not wise, um, the less impact it has on the
Mm.
listener.
Wow.
So
That's
being
good.
quick to say I was wrong, please forgive me, is super important. And great leaders are going to recognize they can't make 100% decisions correctly. They're going to make mistakes.
Yep. So, segueing into you personally, as the mayor of Lakeland, what do you wanna be known for? Your lasting impact on the
So,
city.
probably not to be known for anything. And what I'd rather be known for is that I got to participate with a commission
Mm.
that got things done and helped grow this city in a smart way. That I would be a participant in that process. And if I can shepherd a little bit along the way, I want to be able to do that. But I get shepherded by the commission.
Yeah.
And so the minute we put ourselves into a role where we're the person
Mm.
and we're the one that makes it happen, and if I'm not here, it's not going to be right, we're in trouble.
That's so good.
You can't believe your own
I
press
feel bad for even
reports.
asking that question, man, because
That's
that
okay.
was such a great
That's
answer.
true.
That just reminds me of Coach K at Duke. Like, just like that sort of same philosophy. Like, he's walking off the court his final game for like 42 years, and they're asking him about his career, and he's just like, "I'll get to me later. This is about the team that just lost and these 12 players that are crying." So I think that just is a testament to just your heart and just your leadership. So that's great. So let's talk a little bit about what's happening in Lakeland now, because it's pretty amazing. Polk County in general, we're the seventh largest or fastest growing county in the entire country out of 3,000 plus counties.
Yeah,
It's pretty,
3112 or something, I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
So, what do you see like the future of Lakeland, the city, and the future of the business community specifically here?
Well, I think we are so wonderfully postured, because we have so many resources left. We're not on a coast where we're cramped in and most of the spaces are taken up. We're where we really have some room to be able to grow and to grow wisely. We have kind of a smaller community ethic about us, and we have a very high sensitivity to people. And I think honoring people is probably the most notable single characteristic of Lakeland, and that's what we want to continue to be known for. So, how do you do that well when you're growing? Because when we're growing, we're displacing, and you were taking a field that was just green grass, and we're making it apartments, or it's going to
Mhm.
become a neighborhood. We're taking a road that was where I used to be able to drive in
See
the
the
country
lake and
and
now
see the lake and all
great
those things,
a lot of jobs in a great big building now.
and now
Right.
we're putting buildings around it. And so we have to do two things at the same time. One is not forget where we've come from, so we work to preserve that. But the other is recognize that if you want to stop growth or slow it down, you'll never thrive. It's no different than our business where we go to our customer, really, please don't give us any more sales. And please don't come back quite as often. Just come back once in a while. And we wouldn't do that because we're going to work to try and be as nimble to provide as possible. So that's what we have to do as a city. We can't pass off opportunities. We have to embrace them, and we have to figure out where do they go best.
Mhm.
How do we keep from tearing up an area where there's certainly we could have done something differently and more robust and more appropriate by having good master plans that protect that. And so we work alongside lots of organizations. LEDC is helpful in this. We have architects in town helping us work on our Catalyst 2.0 plan to talk about what does downtown look like. And we work alongside an incredible city staff that is very protective about those things.
Mhm.
And I am so blessed to be able to see how carefully they do that. In the heat of any expansion, there will always be not in my backyard, and there are always going to be, what about traffic already? It's already XYZ awful. And so we hear that. You have to grow those things together.
Mhm.
And so you have to embrace the opportunity. You have to be able to fix the roads. And so I think all of us would say, well, let's just do the roads first, get them all right, and then we'll bring the other things on. But it is also the other things that help to be able to fund doing that growth.
Absolutely.
So we have to listen well. We have to make sure that we're trying to find the middle ground. Great opportunities are generally seized by not segmenting and being polarly opposited, but rather finding the solutions that are in the middle. And so I think we just did that recently on a discussion that we were having on an apartment complex.
Right.
And so we may have helped the developer and helped the citizens to find some middle ground. We'll see how that all turns out. But that's a process, and people can say, well, it should just have been a no, perhaps, or it should have just been a yes, perhaps. But let's find out a place where we can really get there. And I think that's why we want to make sure when we're electing representatives, we're electing people who you think can really represent your interests well, particularly in a time when we're growing as rapidly as we are.
Yep. And I think that's equatable to business being a leader or, in a C-suite role or owning a business yourself. Like you're leading employees and managers and everyone's gonna have different opinions. The larger the company, the more opinions and things you have to deal with, right? So I think, what you're saying on the being the mayor of Lakeland, there's so many different you know, um, areas that you're being pulled or things that you're hearing from different feedback. So it's important for you to channel all that together and then, disperse that properly, be calm, collective,
All right.
open minded. So those are absolute traits of a leader, whether that's in government or in business, quite frankly. It's the same.
And if we pick a product line that we were an advocate of and it doesn't fly,
Hmm.
and our people go, huh, I don't think it's going to fly, and
Right.
we can't figure out how to fix it. Doesn't mean we quit too early, but we can't fix it. We keep trying and just turn it off and say I was wrong.
Right. Yep.
And so let's try something else. So you don't quit trying because you fear failure, because that's you can't ever go anywhere that way.
Hmm.
You recognize some of the times you're going to make a decision that maybe ended up not being optimal,
Hmm.
and then sometimes you just make bad decisions.
Right.
Every one of those things needs the appropriate response, and as quickly as possible, goes back to saying I'm sorry. As quickly as possible, you get to where you fix those things.
Yep, yep. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that are happening with Lakeland and the growth, and I think with the businesses here, that's really one reason businesses come to Lakeland is like, wow, this place is growing rapidly. But also in retrospect, that's how jobs are created. That's why people move to Lakeland from, Tennessee or, the West Coast. They come because of a job relocation. So, what do you say to new people that are coming to Lakeland? Like, whether it's someone who is just moving that works at a business or a business owner that's thinking about transitioning or relocating to Lakeland.
Well, some of the things that are attractive about Lakeland that we take for granted because we are the beneficiaries of them all the time
Mhm.
are that we have really low tax rates. We have low rental rates compared to larger cities.
Right.
So property taxes and rents are or mortgages are automatically lower. And then in addition to that, we have low electric and utility rates. So, and that's because we own those things and we control those costs. So I think one of the things that happens is we get people from other cities that go, wow, this is such an affordable place to live and still has a much higher quality of life than I would see in most places. And you go, you're right. It does. We protect our green spaces. Our park programs are great. Our park expansions are good. We make certain that we're trying to build neighborhoods that can support affordable housing, workforce housing, market rate
Absolutely.
housing,
Mhm.
and we're trying to put those around the city in proximity to retail centers that are nearby. And Publix, of course, does a fabulous job of setting the kind of the markers on all those things as the city continues to grow and even as our state continues to grow, while not losing who we are and remembering that we're a place that is very, very livable. Plus, you have the amenities of Orlando and Tampa on either side. So you get to be able to work in a place that you can thrive within economically. You don't have to be able to get it as a bedroom community to a job to a larger city, because this city in itself is self-sustaining in most cases. But if you needed to or wanted to, you
Can
can.
always go,
Your
yeah.
markets are both there, and certainly there's a lot of recreation, wonderful restaurants, and world class amusements there. So plus we own our airport, and so we have a training school at ACE charter school that can teach you how to your high school student how to fly or
Hmm,
can work on avionics, and so a high
that's
school student can
that's
have a
awesome.
pilot's license,
Yeah,
and or they can work on rides because you have to have a power license, an avionics power license, to be able to work on equipment on the rides because
right.
it's the same rating. So we have opportunities for kids to get out of school with high wages if they decided not to go to college and wanted to use their hands right away instead to be able to do that. And that's one piece. Sun and Fun, helps to make all of that happen.
Yeah.
Our airport is going to have commercial airlines
Yeah, let's talk about the airport a little
and
bit because
and
I'm very
as
interested
well
in
as
that.
Amazon's Southeast Center.
So, like, what's like, how far along is that? Like, when can, business people take a flight? Like, instead of me going to Tampa, Orlando, like, roughly, like, how long do you think that
Well, if you'd asked me that question in 2018, I would have told you by 2020. And
Mhm.
so the difficulty there was I didn't know anything about 2020.
Right. Yeah, nobody did.
and
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so that changed the rules. And even coming out of COVID, I thought we would have a quicker response because we got very, very close right before 2020 came. What has happened, however, is that we have not only had a pilot shortage, but now we have even a more acute shortage because some people left the industry, stewardesses, and because they didn't want to be in a scenario where they were that close to people all the
Right.
time. And so we have had some shifting, in many industries because
Yeah,
of
that
that in
makes sense.
healthcare and other arenas. So our problem is not interest because the growth rate of Florida is too strong. The gates at Tampa and Orlando are pretty full,
Yeah,
and the airlines recognize this is their center portal that can go either way, as well as
makes a
the
lot of
fact
sense.
that we have 2,200 plus people a day flying in and out of Lakeland or out of Polk County.
Right.
So
They
2,200
travel.
people, they travel to one of those two airports, just out of those two
It's
airports.
amazing.
So
22,000 a day?
2,200 a day.
2,200.
If
Wow,
I
that's
said
still
20,000, I'm sorry, but
no, I may
22.
have misunderstood.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
still, man, it's a significant
So
amount
that's in or
every
out.
single day.
So we will have this would be my total prediction. We'll start with an airline that won't be the absolute one that everyone says this is my household name, but
Mhm.
it is a growing airline. And we'll pick up two other airlines that everybody knows right after,
Mhm.
following that.
Sure.
So it's shoehorning the process and getting it started. We're going to expand our terminal. I would say we'll have somewhere around 8 flights a day in and out of Lakeland. In terms of for commercial, we'll probably serve cities like Atlanta, Charlotte, Nashville,
More of the bigger
and
hubs
and
to
some hubs that we can get to. And so and it'll be easy, and that it takes 2,200 people off the traffic of I-4, which is
yeah,
wonderful, out of the center and
most
in the
dangerous
middle.
highway.
And it picks up market share for those airlines that they can't get any more than they already have because the planes are already full unless they put a bigger bird there. And most of that is all, laid out already. So, but then you also see what happens when you have COVID flare or something like this. You have certain places that can't get as many people through. Well, it's nice to have a third hub. If you
Mhm.
had a problem in one city, to be able to work through the other.
That's a
So I
great
think we'll
point.
see ourselves grow, and I think that will happen probably by 2024.
Wow.
Yeah, and so
That's exciting. I
hopefully
mean,
so.
even if it is a little bit later than that, the fact that it's in the next 3 to 5 years is still an amazing, exciting feat, like, so yeah, that's big for the business community here still, right? So if you're traveling, you're at a job, Publix, like, you're any other big corporation that you're taking flights routinely, man, that's a game changer.
Right, and so one of those things we might be able to get started even next year. So I think we could get our start going
That's
soon,
so cool.
and we're working on that.
So what are some things on a personal level, like, you are excited about here that's coming? Like, if someone asked you, Mayor Mutz, like, what's the one thing, like, in the next few years that you are just really excited about?
What I am most excited about is creating opportunities, and I think, for us to do this well and to seize the moment we're in and to recognize what a unique slice of time this is in a unique place, is an imperative. And therefore, bringing the right kinds of jobs in, creating the right kinds of housing, I'd love to be able to drive through here 10 years from now and reflect and say, wow, because a lot of the things that you're making decisions for aren't effective
I'm
for
sure you're
8 to
already
10
doing that
years out.
now.
Right, right. So you're thinking about this is long range, and just to think that was a good capture of time, and we continue that momentum. How do we become a larger Florida community, center of the state, be a smart city, do it excellently with technology, do it excellently with employer expansion, and employee jobs, and really harvest the changing trends that we live in and stay nimble in the process.
Mhm,
So that's kind of
mhm.
my dream and hope.
I love that. So one thing that I'm passionate about is the students that are here, the colleges that we have, and there's so many creatives and like creative young people, talented youth that are here that again, right now, to go back on Orlando and Tampa, most, people are leaving to go to those cities still. Like they want jobs or have a bigger lifestyle. So like as we're growing, we need those bridge opportunities that are with these organizations. There's more jobs, there's more need for technology and advancement, So how do you see that kind of coming together? Like the students here, with the jobs.
So you don't assign people liking you. You don't assign people liking a place to live in. You don't assign people liking a restaurant.
Mhm.
You have to create what they love.
Mhm.
And so I think what I have seen happen in the 26 years that I have lived in Lakeland, and I came from Indianapolis, which is a pretty thriving Midwest city,
Mhm.
uh, is that we have gone from a place where people didn't want to stay at all to where many of them consider staying. And we're seeing many of them that leave right away that grew up here come back and go, holy cow, I
Mhm.
love
I thought the
Lakeland.
green was or the grass was greener, but
And it wasn't. And so, we get a lot of Atlanta recips back, and that's okay, that's normal. When you are growing up kind of like, "I'm out of here,"
yeah.
and then you go. What we see happening with people who move here with companies is they love it quickly, they love it early. So that tells you a lot as well. Now we have lots of room to make them love it even more. We got bike trails to connect. We've got more restaurants. We need more density downtown.
Right.
You have to have places that it's just fun to play. But if you look at, Farmers Market used to be a block. Farmers Market, it's
Yeah.
5 blocks long.
There's more nightlife now.
And yeah, Buena Market, and there's just fun things to be able to do. That's important. Places to play that your downtown is your living room,
Right.
and everybody's has to be that way. And that's why you have to think about how do we make it as desirable as possible and as many events as possible. And LGDA, Julie Townsend, does a great job of leading that and providing the leadership and listening well to the downtown vendors. And our downtown vendors are expanding what they're doing.
Mhm.
And so we just keep all of that growth going. We need another parking garage downtown. We're going to have to figure out where to place that. And we've got a multimodal center that we have to get done. But we're probably going to have about 800 apartments and or condo units downtown in the next 4 to 5 years. And that's going to make a big difference in the number of people that are here. Summit's 500
Yeah,
employees down on the
absolutely.
street. And that's great stuff because that's what you catch. And then they have to have places to go. And of course, then our businesses can go in there
Absolutely.
because they have enough customers to have the demand. And then connect it so that we've got great bike and walking trails that they're unique. Get up to Bonnet Springs Park, which is a place that'll connect right through downtown by the time that we get it done, and it'll be walkable
I'm
to
so
get there.
excited. I haven't even been out there yet. I'm so excited to actually check it out. I've
So you have a
seen.
walking trail all the way around it, and then you'll have the hills that are little mountains that provide insulation a little bit from the Kathleen Road and train tracks that are behind it. And then this whole lower area, 2,300 trees are planted. So there's all going to be all kinds of different trees to be able to have walkways with that you can teach your kids different trees
Mhm.
from and be able to go as well as walking areas that are down low as well as through the trees
Mhm.
that are high and stay at the same level as the upper deck. And
That's cool.
all the different families that have made contributions in the process of that, and the Barnett family, certainly, of course, that provided it as a whole, are just additional statements of creating a place that was nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a former rail yard and it
Right.
was contaminated with arsenic, and
Mm.
nobody wanted to put anything on it. And now we have 168 acres that's going to be this redeemed spot in a beautiful place and nice places to eat and butterflies to see and all that.
That's amazing. So cool. Is there anything that you wanna share upcoming that, I'm a business owner here, I should know about, or I should at least be plugged into in the community? Like
Well, I think doing what Lakeland Business Owners does, LBO, the Chamber, LEDC, those are things that you want to be connected with where it's appropriate for your business. Um, uh, Certainly, Bridge Local is
mhm,
another one of those, and we want to make sure that you find a niche that matches you. But with respect to your own business, be willing to recognize what your weaknesses are and what your strengths are, and make sure you staff around your weaknesses and you staff early around your weaknesses, and don't try and pick that up. Find somebody capable to do it. You're only as strong as your team. So finding key people that really make a difference instead of making excuses for marginal ones that aren't making a difference is probably the slowest lesson I learned in business. I'm a person that loves people and I'm loyal.
mhm,
It's hard for loyal people to recognize that this is maybe a person I shouldn't put in the slot,
mm,
and I ought to think about where I could use them differently or encourage them to work somewhere else. Maybe our industry or this business or this kind of position isn't really a great fit for them. And then get the right person in that spot. Be a little impatient with yourself as long as you've coached well, as long as you've clearly communicated
mhm,
expectations and tried to bring it along. If they can't come along, and some people don't, some people miss it in terms of what you're saying, or they don't think what you're saying really is right.
yeah,
Neither one of those things work.
mhm,
Okay, so if that's happening, that person shouldn't be in that slot. And find somebody who can. Um, Pay enough to have good people. Recognize that your greatest asset is not your assets, it's your people.
yep,
And so you have that team can make you or break you. If you're spending a lot of time up at night or you're spending a lot of time trying to grind everything out yourself and you're exhausted, you will not thrive and you will be short-tempered and you'll not be fun to work with. Have enough staff to do what you need to do and figure out ways to increase your profits to cover that staff. So the other thing we tend to do wrong is we price too low and we look at our product and we are cost conscious because we want to be super competitive and have everybody come
attractive and
and
yeah,
all that kind of thing. People aren't fussing over the dollar extra you might charge for that item or $5 depending on the materiality of that number, or maybe even $150 depending on the materiality of that number, like you are. And that makes a big difference to you as an owner. So when you break an egg on a grill, you can make, yeah, let's say that egg costs 20 cents. You can make another 20 cents and charge, a dollar for 2 eggs
right,
or in roughly, and then or you can charge 2 and a quarter for those eggs. Probably doesn't make a huge difference to the person
right.
who's eating the egg.
The service and the
Everything
experience,
else that comes along
everything
with it.
else.
So don't shortchange what you can profitably make. It isn't profit is how you succeed. Profit is how you pay bills. Profit is how people get more choices when they go into a nice place. Why do we pay more money at an expensive restaurant? Because we want a broader experience.
Absolutely.
And so give people the opportunity to pay for what you do and do it well so that you don't find yourself in a position where you're unable to hire somebody that you really need to hire.
Right. How do you know that you are in the right price point though? Like is it testing? Is it, you know
Yeah, your customers will tell you. And the economic curve E101 works. So supply and demand. So when you are charging too much, people will go away. There's a bakery in town that I work with from time to time,
mhm,
and their problem was that they did not charge enough money, and people were very happy to come.
mhm,
They just had to be encouraged in the process of that, and move into their pricing, and they did,
mhm,
and that didn't affect their volume grew. So sometimes you just have to recognize we're not the people who should decide. The owner's probably the last person who
mm,
should decide on pricing.
mm,
You want your focus groups to help you there. You want people that can have an opinion. You want to say, if this costs you $6 or it costs you $5, would that make a big difference to you? Would you
mhm.
buy it or not?
See, that's so good. And many business owners or businesses don't even ask that. Like you said, it's like what we think, what it's valued at what we've seen, things change. Inflation the last few years, things change. You have to evolve also, or else, your income isn't matching the inflation rate, your business. So
And
that's
you don't give
important.
yourself an increase because you can't afford to, and you don't hire somebody who could be stronger because you can't afford to.
Hmm.
And the only person you have to blame for that is pick up the mirror
Yep.
because you're not charging enough for your product.
Yep.
And don't feel badly about profit. It is the way that we grow this country and this world.
Right. It's how opportunities are created. Well, Mr. Mutz, thank you so much again for jumping on the LBO podcast. This was a great episode. Couldn't be more thankful.
My pleasure. My
Is
pleasure.
there anything in last closing that you want to share with the viewers?
Stay focused on what you can do for others, not what you need to do for yourself. Get your eyes. The mirror is a horrible place to look in order to be able to grow and thrive.
Hmm.
And so the best place to do that is look outside, looking for the opportunities and the people around you, and do everything you can to make them as successful as possible.
Love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
All right.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
guys.